Hello, this is Peter Sullivan, and thanks for watching this video. This video is the third in a series of short videos where I discuss using RFC 2350 as the basis for documenting your computer security incident response team. Here is our agenda for today. First, we'll quickly review the other two videos we've already done, and then we'll take a look at what we're going to do in this video. So, videos 1 and 2. The first video introduced the outline for CSIRT template, which is in Appendix D, page 22 of RFC 2350. And we're using this outline in order to document our computer security incident response team. The first section was document information. The second section was contact information. Document information simply talked about when was the document published, how do you get a hold of it, where is it located, any recent updates, and so on. Contact information is just simply name of the computer security incident response team, the address, time zone, how to get a hold of folks, how to contact them, and so forth. So pretty easy, and sections 1 and 2 are in particular to each individual incident response team, so we didn't discuss them in any great detail. The second video, okay, and I actually went as far as saying this section of RFC 2350 is the most important. The second video described and dealt with the CSIRT charter, which is section 3 of RFC 2350, section 3 of the outline of RFC 2350. Right, and the CSIRT charter consists of mission, constituency, sponsorship, and authority. So if you haven't seen the first two videos, I'd recommend that you take a look at those as well. Now, this video, we're going to discuss still RFC 2350, but we're going to talk about section 4 of the outline in Appendix D, which is policies. So RFC 2350 CSIRT policies. And the policy sections that they have in the outline are types of incidents, level of support, cooperation, interaction, and disclosure of information, and communication and authentication. So let's talk about each of these in turn. But before we proceed, let's take a look at what we're really trying to accomplish here by publishing policies in RFC 2350, or the outline based on RFC 2350. Our constituents, our CSIRT constituents, need to understand our CSIRT policies in order to be able to understand the support that is available to them as constituents of your CSIRT and how to obtain that support. An important part of that is how to report incidents. What is the policy and procedure for incident reporting? But it's the basis of publishing these policies is so that your constituency can understand what level of support they can expect from you as a computer security incident response team. CSIRT policies. The first part of section 4 of the outline for CSIRT template discusses types of incidents and level of support. In this section, you will list for your CSIRT the specific types of incidents that you are going to handle as an incident response team. Now, oftentimes we'll hear today incident types oftentimes will be called incident categories as well. So if you hear that language, it's the same thing. An incident type or incident category is the same thing. And what I mean here is things like malware or denial of service or other kinds of specific incident types. Also, however, in this section, you're going to list your default or minimum level of support that you're going to provide for really any of these specific incident types or categories, and for specifically any other incident categories that are not listed specifically in this section. So you're going to set an expectation with your constituency as to what kinds of incidents you're going to deal with and what level of support, at least as a minimum, they can expect for these and other kinds of incidents as well. Now, the Appendix E, which is the filled out example version of the outline for CSIRT template, lists a dozen incident categories. And I think they've listed that many incident categories kind of as an example, maybe for completeness, if you will, but that's a lot. Okay? A dozen different categories is a lot, especially if, and I'm going to assume a little bit, especially if you're a newer CSIRT and you're using RFC 2350 to get your documentation started. A dozen incident categories is a lot. But you take a look at what they have there as examples and see if any of those things apply to you as well. Now, when we start talking about, and this is something that's not actually in RFC 2350, but if we start to talk about incident categories or incident types, it's useful, I think it's actually necessary to define what is a computer security incident. Define that for your constituency. It'll help them decide whether or not they need to report something they see. And I believe the definition that you are going to use as a security or definition of a security incident should be part of your CSIRT policies. So let's take a closer look at this. The glossary, Appendix A of RFC 2350, actually describes or gives a definition of security incident. And they give this definition in terms of outcomes, which is not unusual, which is actually a fairly common way to define security incidents. But they list this in terms of outcomes and with respect to loss of confidentiality of information, compromise of integrity of information, denial of service, misuse of service, systems, or information, damage to systems. So they're talking about what are the outcomes, what happened to me as a result of a given incident. So this is what they have as a security incident definition in the Appendix A glossary of RFC 2350. And I believe you need to define what a security incident is so you can inform your constituency, and so you know when it happens. Okay? You know when it happens. There are other definitions of computer security incident. NIST has a definition that folks like to use, but I'm not going to go any further. I'm not going to go outside of what's in RFC 2350. And they give, again, a security incident definition in Appendix A that I think you should take a look at, and I think you should absolutely include a definition of a security incident in your policy section. The next part of Section 4, policies, in the RFC 2350 outline for CSIRT template, talks about cooperation, interaction, and disclosure of information. Now, this information is important and it's useful, but it may vary depending upon what kind of a CSIRT that you are. If you are an internal or operational CSIRT for, as we've been saying, XYZ Corporation, this is not that big a deal. You'll list how you interact with XYZ Corporation, the management, the Information Technology Department, the Security Operations Center, legal, physical security, for instance. You'll talk about how you interact with them, and you'll be using that to let people know in your organization what it is they should expect or can expect from you in terms of cooperation, okay, and when that you might be calling upon them and what you might want from them. Right? So what groups does a CSIRT interact with and the purpose of that interaction? Now, if you are a external CSIRT or a CSIRT that's sponsored externally, this section is going to be different because one of the groups that you're going to interact with is going to be your sponsor. You also, if you're a national CSIRT or a military CSIRT, you may have the obligation to interact with law enforcement. And so that would be listed here as well. Okay, the groups that you interact with and for what's the purpose of interaction and the level of cooperation that you're going to provide. The last part of this cooperation, interaction, and disclosure is how and under what conditions is incident information shared. Now, this is an area where you have to be very careful as a CSIRT. Trust is an important factor in a CSIRT's relationship to its constituency. And if the constituency, or if your constituents get the idea that information they give to you is not going to be safeguarded, or it's going to be improperly or inadvertently disclosed, they're going to lose trust with you, and they're going to, of course, then stop working with you, which is not what you want to do. So how information is shared and under what conditions, it's important to make a statement there as to what it is and how it is you're going to share information and under what conditions you will share it. Your statement may simply be that if you're an internal or an operational CSIRT, your statement may simply be that information is not disclosed outside of XYZ Corporation, okay, as far as the CSIRT is concerned, and let management or the legal department make further decisions. But as far as the CSIRT is concerned, information is disclosed only within the corporation to its management and so on. So it's an important section so as to reinforce this idea of trust within a CSIRT. And the last section under policies for RFC 2350 is communication and authentication. They expect here a CSIRT policy on secure communication. How is it that you're going to communicate securely with your constituents? The idea being is that when you're discussing incident information and when you're discussing incidents or problems or ongoing problems within the organization, that is information that deserves and should be safeguarded. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? So what's your policy on secure communication? And that's both between yourself as a CSIRT and your constituency, as well as any other CSIRTs or other organizations that you may be cooperating with. So this kind of leans back onto the previous section. If you have other organizations that you cooperate with, you're going to have to describe how you're going to communicate securely with them. Now, RFC 2350 and also FIRST, the Forum of Incident Response and Security Teams, recommends using PGP, pretty good privacy, for encryption and digital signatures in email. So that is the recommendation. And just so you know, RFC 4880 describes open PGP, open pretty good privacy, as a tool you can use for secure communication. But this part, they just want you to describe what's your policy on how you're going to communicate securely with your constituents and others, and what things are you going to use in order to do that. For instance, if you're going to use PGP, you need to then publish your public PGP key, perhaps on your website, so people can send you encrypted information in order to keep incident information secure. And that's it for Section 4 of RFC 2350. So as a summary, we're looking for policies used to communicate the CSIRT's incident response role. What is it you're going to do relative to incident response, and what level of support can your constituents expect? So it's really setting expectations with your constituency. And then lastly, how are you going to disclose information, when are you going to disclose information, and how are you going to keep information secure that you've been handling, or you've been exposed to when you're handling incidents. Looking ahead then to the next video, we're going to talk about RFC 2350 Section 5 in the outline. And Section 5 is services. And the big service, and the only service, as we said before, that you have to offer is an incident response service. And that's going to be broken down to these three areas you see here: triage, coordination, and resolution. And then we'll discuss in Section 5 some proactive activities you can also do that maybe you offer as a service as well. So that's it for this video. Thank you for listening to this video, and I'll see you on the next video when we discuss services. Thanks.